You ever look at a simple drawing, lines on paper, and just think, okay, nice, but what if?
Yeah, totally. That feeling of wanting just a little something extra.
Exactly. We all love that little spark, that moment where you figure out how to take something simple and just elevate it. So today we're going to dig into that, specifically within the world of Zentangle art. We're focusing on, the secret sauce, shading.
Right, shading. It sounds simple maybe. But we've been looking at some materials, some guides, and they really hammer home that in Zentangle, shading isn't just optional flair.
No, it's way more than that.
It's fundamental. And for anyone maybe newer to this, Zentangle itself is this amazing mindful art form, creating structured patterns.
Very meditative.
It is. And shading is like a core piece of that mindful process.
Absolutely. So our mission for this deep dive really is to unpack why it's so crucial in Zentangle and maybe how it can totally transform the look of the art.
Think of it as a shortcut maybe to appreciating this key element.
Yeah, seeing your own work or other people's with fresh eyes.
Okay, let's jump in. Why is shading such a big deal in Zentangle? What makes it so important?
Well, the sources we looked at consistently call it an essential element. It's described as being at the core of the whole Zentangle method.
So not just a finishing touch.
Definitely not. It's foundational. And the really cool part is how it tackles dimension. It takes that flat, two-dimensional drawing and gives it this feeling of depth, real substance. It's like making something flat feel like it has actual volume.
Like you could almost, lift off the tile?
Pretty much. It makes it feel three-dimensional, alive.
It's almost like a bit of visual magic, isn't it? You draw these patterns, these tangles, and then just a subtle bit of graphite.
Yeah, just pencil lead.
And suddenly things start to recede or pop forward.
Yeah.
One source used the phrase, reveals the hidden beauty. I really like that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. It's just as the shading brings out something already there, but maybe unseen.
Exactly. Like highlighting the curves and contours that were maybe subtle before. And it adds, the materials say, definition and richness to the patterns themselves. If you think about Zentangle being about deliberate strokes, careful placement.
Right, that focus.
Then shading is another layer of that intention. It helps define the forms, pulls your eye to certain spots. It guides how you experience the drawing.
Okay, so it's got a job to do, visually speaking, beyond just looking nice. What is that job? What's the purpose, and what kind of impact does it have?
The main purpose, coming through loud and clear, is creating contrast and texture.
Contrast and texture, okay.
Yeah, think about light and shadow in the real world. Shading in Zentangle sort of mimics that, giving you that sense of depth we talked about.
Right, light and dark playing off each other.
Precisely. And this simple addition turns, as one source put it, a basic drawing into a dynamic piece.
Dynamic, that's a great word for it.
Isn't it? It suggests movement, energy. It apparently helps you appreciate the little details, the complexities within the patterns more.
I can see that. It stops it from being just flat lines. The term visual magic came up too.
It did.
And I think that really captures it. It's kind of amazing how just a little bit of graphite placed thoughtfully can make a design feel so vibrant and three-dimensional. Have you found that yourself, that wow moment with just a bit of shading?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Many times. And that vibrancy, that pop, it's not accidental. Shading can add emphasis and drama.
Drama? Interesting. How so?
Well, you can use it to control where someone looks first. You create a focal point. Or you can make it feel like there's a flow, a movement across the tile.
Ah, so you're directing the viewer's eye.
Exactly. It's a tool for that.
Yeah.
Which means, if you're creating Zentangle, you can think,
Yeah.
how do I use this shading intentionally? What do I want to highlight?
Okay, let's get practical then. What are some specific things shading actually does to the image? What effects can we see?
Okay, so the sources point to a few key things.
Yeah.
Number one is making flat shapes look 3D.
Right, the volume.
Yeah. Take a simple curve, add a shadow along one edge, and boom, it looks rounded, like a tube or a sphere segment.
Instant form.
Pretty much. It also lets you emphasize certain patterns over others, maybe make one tangle really stand out.
So creating layers of interest.
Exactly. And crucially, it creates that feeling of light and shadow, even if you haven't decided, okay, the light is coming from the top left.
Ah, that's a key point. So you don't need a lamp in your drawing.
Not necessarily. It's more about evoking the idea of light hitting a form. You can suggest something is raised or indented just with where you put the graphite.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about the effect, not strict realism.
Yeah.
So, for people listening thinking, all right, I get the why, but how? Any practical tips? How do you shade effectively?
Yes, the guidance is quite clear and helpful, actually. The number one tip seems to be start light and build up gradually.
Start light. Okay.
Give you more control. You can always add more graphite, make it darker, but taking it away is much harder.
Right. That applies to so many things, doesn't it? Easier to add than subtract.
Totally. Rushing it can lead to, smudgy or muddy areas that just overwhelm the lines underneath.
So patience is key.
Patience and experimentation. The sources say take your time, try different ways of holding the pencil, different pressures.
Play with it a bit.
Exactly. And they also recommend using soft, even strokes, and then blending gently.
Yeah.
You want to avoid harsh lines where the shading starts and stops.
Blend it out, smooth it.
Yeah. The goal is enhancement. You want the shading to work with the drawing, not fight it or cover it up.
Enhance, not overpower. That feels like a really important distinction.
It is.
Which actually leads nicely into this idea of less is more that came up. What's that about in Zentangle shading?
Yeah, this seems really central to the Zentangle philosophy. You can overdo shading. Too much can make the whole thing look cluttered, heavy. It can obscure the delicate line work, which is kind of the point of Zentangle, right? That intricate pattern.
You lose the detail.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
So the advice is start subtle, just a light touch, and step back, look at it. Doesn't need more. Only add more if it really serves a purpose.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. It's about thoughtful placement. Sometimes the tiniest whisper of graphite has a huge impact. You don't need to shade every single edge or corner.
That's a good reminder. It connects back to that elegance and simplicity often found in Zentangle. Okay, so thinking about placement. The materials also talked about shading not being an afterthought, but an integral design element. What does that mean?
It means thinking about shading earlier in the process, maybe even as you're drawing the tangles.
Not just sticking it on at the very end.
Right. It's seeing shading as part of the composition itself. You can use it to create balance in the design or maybe deliberate asymmetry. You can use it to create emphasis, like we talked about.
So deciding while you draw, okay, this area is going to recede, I'll plan for some shading here.
Something like that. Or just being aware that shading will be part of it and how it might influence the overall flow or weight of the piece. It shapes the entire design, really. It's part of your artistic expression, not just a technique applied afterwards.
That's a powerful way to think about it. Shifting perspective. Now, something else that caught my eye was this idea of freedom. Freedom from a specific light source. Can you unpack that a bit? How is Zentangle shading different from, say, traditional realistic drawing?
Ah, yes. This is really interesting. In traditional drawing, you're often very concerned with a consistent light source. Where is the light coming from? How does it hit the object? Where do the shadows fall? Realistic.
That need to be consistent.
Usually, yes. But with Zentangle, the sources suggest you have more freedom. You don't have to imagine a specific lamp or window.
So you're liberated from physics.
In a way. You're liberated from strict realism. This lets you focus more on the emotional impact of the shading. How does it make the design feel? Does it add mystery? Does it make it feel soft or sharp?
So it's about the design's internal logic, not external reality.
Precisely. You can shade in ways that might not make sense in the real world, but that look fantastic and create a unique effect within the Zentangle tile itself. It encourages experimentation.
That really does sound freeing. Okay, and what about specific ways to shade? The materials mention techniques.
Yeah, they touched on a few. A common tool is a tortillon.
A tortillon.
Yeah, it's like a stick of tightly rolled paper. You use it to blend the graphite smoothly.
Ah, okay. Like a blending stump.
Exactly. Or, even simpler, sometimes just using your finger to gently smudge and blend works well, especially for softer effects.
Low tech.
Very. Another approach is layering. Just using the pencil itself, applying light layers of strokes, building up the darkness gradually where you want it.
So different methods give different looks.
They do. The tortillon might give a very smooth, almost airbrushed look, while layering pencil strokes might leave a bit more texture. It's worth trying different things to see what you like and what works for a specific tangle.
Finding your own style within it. Now, we can't show pictures here, obviously, but the sources hinted at examples showing how these techniques could really change the same drawing. Can you sort of describe that transformation for us?
Sure, let's try. Imagine you have a tangle with lots of simple, repeated curves, like scales, maybe.
Okay, got it.
Now, picture adding just a tiny bit of shading at the base of each scale.
Yeah.
Suddenly, they look like they're overlapping, right? They gain dimension.
Yeah, I can see that.
Or imagine a tangle that looks like woven ribbons. Shading where one ribbon goes under another immediately creates that illusion of depth and structure. It makes the over ribbon pop.
Right. It clarifies the structure.
Exactly. Or maybe you have a bold central pattern. Shading softly around it can make that central element seem to glow or push forward, making it a clear focal point. The examples likely showed how these subtle choices where you shade, how much, how you blend it dramatically alter how the design feels. Is it soft? Geometric? Does it float? Does it feel solid?
Wow, yeah. Sounds like tiny changes can have a really big visual payoff. So bringing this all together, what's the main takeaway? If someone remembers one thing about shading in Zentangle from our chat, what should it be?
I think the core message is, don't underestimate shading. It's not extra, it's essential. It's a fundamental skill in Zentangle that adds incredible richness, depth, and life to your art.
It's a power tool in your creative kit.
It really is. Understanding it, playing with it, that's how you unlock more potential in your Zentangle work.
So for you listening, maybe this inspires you to look again at your own tangles, or perhaps even give Zentangle a try, thinking about shading from the get-go.
And remember, the idea isn't to make it complicated. It's enhancement. It should feel good to do. And like anything, with a bit of practice, it starts to feel more intuitive.
You start to just see where the shading might go.
Exactly. It becomes part of the flow.
Okay, and that leads us to our final thought for you today. Stepping back a bit. Think about how light and shadow work in your own life, off the page. How does subtle emphasis, or the interplay of light and dark, change how you perceive things, your environment, maybe even situations?
It's an interesting thought.